All right, everybody.
So,
Welcome to our city council meeting, our special city council meeting of Tuesday, December the 2nd, 2025. Mr. City Clerk, will you please call roll?
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Rocha.
Here.
Councilmember Wilson.
here.
Councilmember Torres Walker. Absent. Councilmember Freitas.
Present.
Mayor Bernal.
Here.
Thank you. We have a quorum at 12:06 p.m.
All right, will you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, welcome everybody to our study session workshop where we are going to be concluding council priorities today. In our last meeting on September the 15th, we went over priorities of the city council. We ended up with public safety priorities and action items, as well as economic development and code enforcement. And so today we're going to be working on housing and unhoused supports. And so I'll ask our city manager to say a few words before we turn it over to Tracy Miller, who will be facilitating our day today.
Thank you so much, Mayor and City Council. In December of 2023, the City of Antioch worked with focused strategies to complete the plan for the Department of Public Safety and Community Resources to reduce homelessness and increase access to critical resources for unhoused residents. This plan came about as a result of the policy guidelines for the city's approach to unhoused resident services with the City Council adopted in April of 2021. Both the 2021 report as well as the Focus Strategies 2023 report is an attachment to this staff report. At the time, these policy guidelines served as a framework for how the city would approach decisions around advancing resources for our unhoused residents. Two, the guidelines conveyed the city's clear goal, which was and still is to reduce homelessness in Antioch. The policy guidelines of 2021 outlined 3 strategies that the city would use to prioritize and achieve this goal: address the immediate and public health needs of unhoused residents, number 2, invest in interim housing and service solutions designed to facilitate the transition into permanent housing, and number 3, increase permanent housing and linkages to permanent housing. A couple months ago, some of the city staff went to DC to go to the National Council on Homelessness and bring back certain strategies to address some of the issues here, including expanding shared housing services in collaboration with the Family Justice Center. We will be attending another session in DC with some of you on the council as well in January, at the end of January. 2, a few council meetings ago, we expanded and redid our housing services, creating a division with the housing services manager and 2 housing services coordinator. In 2020, there were a little over 217 individuals counted in our point-in-time count here for Antioch, compared to almost 478 in 2024 during the point-in-time count. In January of this year, myself and several staff members participated in the county's point-in-time count. At that time, Antioch's numbers had dropped to around 270. We have 2 initiatives that happened last year, including the Emergency Resolution Funds and Opportunity Village. This year, our Emergency Resolution Funds number 3 created Opportunity Village version 2.0 for an encampment off of Deb Park Court. We have made significant investments to our homelessness system and unhoused system here in Antioch. In 2023, we spent $375,000 on focus strategies to complete a report on what we could do to address unhoused issues in the city. Since that time, we have not implemented anything in that report. The city does not have a single policy analyst or a single data analyst to make data-informed decisions. In order to have the conversation around how much we've invested in homelessness, we must have the data, collect the data, and track the data. At this time, we do have an encampment task force group. There are between 15 and 17 individuals that are city staff on that task force group. From the Public Works Department, including our waters and creeks, to our code enforcement, community service officers, police department, maintenance workers, public safety community resource staff, housing coordinator, the county's H3 team, Antioch's core team, and some of our community-based organizations. They meet every Wednesday for an hour, between 17 and 20 people, times that hourly salary. We also have a contract with Service Masters, who goes out and cleans up after our abatements. And I'm looking for a deputy director for Public Works, but on average, at this point, the back of the envelope calculations is between $3 and $4 million a year without any data tracking. We have no flags in our cost center or our enterprise management systems and finance that tracks our investments for homelessness and unhoused service coordination. So with that, I want to go over our action plans from the last special meeting to anchor you into what we're talking about this meeting. On September 15th, we had this following action items: economic development and code enforcement. The city manager is to provide updates in October and November, a 3 to 6 month plan for code enforcement. The city attorney is to write and strengthen ordinances, provide a current list of ordinances and comparisons with other cities by the second October council meeting. The city attorney is to email council by the end of this week regarding building vacancy ordinances. And our economic development action plan is to be drafted within 3 to 4 months by January 2026, with a final review by March 2026. As to the city manager updates, the 3 to 6 month plan for code enforcement will be getting a new director, and it will have different functionalities to include a downtown specific code enforcement officer, a proactive approach to code enforcement across the city, a business code enforcement officer just dedicated to businesses and outreach, a weekend shift, evening shifts. Remote work has stopped for that unit, and the shifts have expanded across the days. So you'll get this report when the community economic development person comes, our director comes for your entire economic development action plan in January. I think that concludes my report.
All right, thank you so much. And so I will turn this over to Ms. Miller, who will take us through this last item.
Thank you. Mayor and council, it's good to see you. I'm excited to be back here. One of the things I was so happy about is that you all got to list at the last meeting the successes that you have all had with the city staff and in this first year. And I think that's something we should never forget. The successes are, when there's so much to do, it's sometimes hard to sit and look at what you've all done together as a council, with the city manager and the city staff. And that's why I'm very proud to be part of this meeting today. The other thing I've learned by working with all of you is that every single person I've met, from every single council member, the city manager, the city attorney, and every staff person I've met and got the opportunity to collaborate with, cares deeply about the city, the community, and the folks that live and work here. That's why it makes it an honor. My role here today is council has already set the 3 priorities. We had a very productive meeting last time. They are, as stated earlier by the mayor and the city manager, economic development, public safety, and unhoused and homelessness. 3 action items, as the city manager has just listed, have already been completed for the first 2. We're at a very narrow point in this discussion workshop, where as a group, you were to come up with 3 action items for the city manager for your priority for the city of unhoused homelessness issue. After you come up with it, just like last time, the city manager will give feedback on to whether or not those things are reasonably done in the time setting that you give her. And then the 3 priorities, economic development, public safety, unhoused and homelessness, will be adopted or be brought to a motion to be adopted for you all to choose on the December 9th meeting. So without any further ado, I'm going to start going back to having you write the action items unless council has anything you want to say before that. Any objections?
Any comments or questions from council of Tracy? All right. You may approach us.
So
And,
I'd ask,
I'm sorry to interrupt, but before we go any further, this may be a good time to open it up just to see if there's any public comments. So before the council starts deliberating on any type of priorities.
Sure, that's fine. We can open this up to public comment right now. Do we have speaker cards from the public?
We have no speaker cards.
Do we have anybody from the public that would like to make public comment? We have somebody right there. But I think this gentleman right here. So there's a clock right here, and you'll have three minutes to speak.
Cool. My name is Jesus. I'm a local business owner. I only want to remind you guys to please try to try to keep a focus on like public health. I have to pick up a lot of stuff that I didn't really sign up for. I mean, it comes with it, so but it is an issue downtown. If we could open up a bathroom, I know the what is it, Antioch City Park? Is it City Park on 10th and A? I know those are shut, so that kind of spills over into the neighborhoods. So I know we have a lot of like money for like checkpoints and all that stuff, and I know that we can probably get some money for public bathrooms or showers, because I mean people need a place to use the bathroom, right? So a lot of the businesses are kind of shuttered off to that. And like, again, it's a public health issue because it flies all over the place and stuff. So yeah, that's really the only reason I'm here. I know it's hard, so I appreciate the work that you guys do. It's not easy, so.
Thank you.
And I'm sorry about your father. Yeah, we saw that.
Thank you. Another public comment?
I was just wondering if we'd have public comment after we see what transpires here, because, I mean, code enforcement is great. That I was at that other meeting. I didn't realize that this would be the follow-up meeting for that, so kind of the public awareness that this meeting is, over here or whatever. I'm no way of knowing without, the connectivity seems to be the problem. But with code enforcement, also ordinances involving safety as far as like not allowing camping to be in the city. If we had an ordinance against that, it would kind of help mold the authority that we have over, some of the things that are going on. We got cement mixers on the other side of the railroad tracks right now on the gateway to the city, on the way into the city, and it's just like there's no power over there to use a cement mixer. Why would there be one on the other side of the track? And the next destination for it is in the water, and so then we have a health concern and different concerns that we can't really necessarily meet because of the railroad, but the railroad still goes through the city, and we need to address that and have some authority with the railroad because it's right on the waterway, and the pollution and the things that are just going into the water directly from that exposure we don't have any authority over. And also some of the processes that we use to administer the cleanup. They come in every Wednesday like clockwork. I have pictures, photos where they pull up right next to a car that's clearly camping in the city parking lot. The car was clearly towed into the spot, and there's garbage outside of the vehicle, and they drive right away from it. They leave that stuff, and it's just not really an effective way of going after the issue. That's all I am.
All right, thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Looking for a Kleenex before I got up here, but I'm gonna just wipe my
Yeah.
face with my. I just found out about this special meeting about 2 hours ago. I am with NAMI, with Leave No One Behind, NAMI CC, and we go out every Wednesday. I'm so used to just addressing everybody. Anyway, we go out every Wednesday, and at different times, there might be an encampment, and then at another point, they're not there, and they're going down the street. I don't really know what this meeting entails, but I can tell you what I see, and I'm pretty sure some of you here see some of the same things that work with the unsheltered. It's real sad. I'm on the clock. The only way I can sleep at night in my 4-bedroom, 3-bath, swimming pool, solar system house is knowing that I'm making a difference, not just with mouth. One of the people I work with, Dr. Phil, says, we call him our Dr. Phil, you can pretend to care, but you can't pretend to show up. And so with that said, it was storming one night, and I had one tent, and I got out, made my grandkids come with me on East 18th for a gentleman that has mental health issues, and put up that tent with some of the people that I see that we feed. And I honestly have to say, I trust more of them than some of the people. I'm also a minister at the church on the first pew. So I'm just hoping we can find a solution. I heard, what everybody said about the cleanliness and stuff, but when you're out there, there's no bathrooms. And some of the people I meet, I went to a church function last Sunday. I was able to go to 3 church functions because I trade off with my grandkids. And I passed by Rayleigh's and I had my food, and there was a gentleman there. And I gave him my food and I had some Arizona tea. And he said, just be careful out here. So I'm thinking about how he's thinking about how I am, and I get to go home and put my heater on, even for my animals, but he's worried about me. And I just want to know how many of you have actually went out there, boots to the ground, and actually had the opportunity to talk to some of these people. Like I said, I didn't know, I just found out about this, but my concern is for them.
Thank you. Yeah. Yes. Can you,
I think she was.
oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, ma'am.
I don't have 3 minutes worth of conversation. I've been going out with. Oh, I'm sorry. My name is Deborah Temple. They call me Miss T. I have been working with Nicole for about 5 years. I moved to Antioch. My son knew her. We connected. I feed spirit. That's what I feed. Nicole feeds bodies and minds, but I feed spirit. So I do this everywhere I go, 20 years, giving a card that says to somebody, just in case you have forgotten, turn the card over. And when you turn the card over, the card says you are created in the image and the likeness of God. You are wonderful, excellent, and absolutely marvelous. So just show up. I'm dealing in the definition of what we are, human beings. So will we ever stop dealing in descriptions of human beings? Because all of those other things, man, woman, black, white, American, China, all those are descriptions of human beings. And they're not big enough to contain us. We need to get bigger. And we need to see bigger. And it cannot all be about money. Because I've met a bunch of miserable people with a lot of money. So, and I've met some happy people on the street, real talk. But we need to get human, for real, for real. I love you. Everybody, please do what is right to do. Do what you would do if it was you.
Thank you.
Hello, I came to say that I love Mrs. T, number one, but, and she truly does feed the spirit.
Melissa, for the record.
Oh, my name is Melissa Case. I'm here to say that it does take money. We do need money to help all citizens of Antioch, homeless and otherwise. And to do that, we need economic development. So you guys have a difficult balancing act right now, because I know Antioch citizens that don't shop in Antioch because they don't want to deal with the problem. I'm not one of those people, but there are citizens in Antioch that go to Brentwood because of this reason. So it's a difficult act, and I think it's going to take everybody. It's going to take our advocates to help our city, and the city working with our advocates to encourage people not to put campsites in front of storefronts. It's going to take our city to help these people get a hand up, not a hand out. And that's what I want to see. I want to see people get the help that they need. I want to see Antioch as a vibrant economic city that can afford to help our less fortunate, to afford to give things to Antioch citizens that they want, to do. We don't have a movie theater. We used to, stuff like that. We have to go to Brentwood or Pittsburgh or Concord or Walnut Creek to go watch a movie, So there's a lot of things that need fixing in Antioch, and I just want you guys to balance the economic and helping people that need help. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Oh, sure, sir. Whoever can duke it out, yeah. Right.
Hi, my name is Erica Sharenko. I just want to say I'm grateful that we're having this meeting. Kind of just like everyone else is saying, please think about the fact that these are human beings that are out there. We are all broken in our own ways, and these people have had a different life that we might have had. We have no warming centers, and it has been so cold, as we all know. There's no emergency shelter for anyone in this city. We met a family that had recently lost their home or lost their apartment in the Raley's parking lot, and we only knew about a parking lot where they had like safe parking at St. Ignatius Church because somebody knew somebody that knew somebody that knew somebody. There is no like repository or list of available services in this city. You go to our website, it says call CORE. You call CORE, you wait a couple days for them to call you back if you're not actually unhoused. And I don't know what it's like to actually be unhoused and call them, but I've heard that there is quite a delay. And when someone is going through a crisis like this, we have a short amount of time to actually help them, right, before they're lost, before something more drastic happens. And we see it on the streets every day, people on drugs going through issues, and we can really help on economic development by working from the bottom up, right? So as we build the soil and the foundation of this city, we will see businesses start flourishing, right? As long as we take care of those that are less advantaged and less fortunate, we will see better things in our city. So thank you.
Thank you.
Good, is it morning or afternoon?
Afternoon.
Afternoon, good afternoon. Damon Owens here. I'm the pastor of Genesis Church in Antioch. To the mayor, city council, city manager, thank you all so much. I don't know everyone's name, but I want to stand and just say thank you so much for creating this space to talk about this particular problem. But it's a challenge that's going on in the Bay Area in general, not just Antioch specific, number one. Two, it is a challenge when tax revenue is not being generated the way it should as a result of just one business being open in the neighboring city, Costco, where you can lose so much revenue out of just one location. It's absolutely crazy. That just reminds us on how important it is for economic development, for us to create places and spaces, not just to give hands out, but to help people up. But the only way you can do that is to create places and spaces where you can actually do that. I get a chance to travel all around the world as a pastor, but also as a business owner, and I like to get ideas from other cities. I had a chance to walk along the pier there in Pittsburgh, and lo and behold, I saw this AI-driven bathroom. Blew me away. And this bathroom, Mayor, tripped me out because all I had to do was move my hand over it. I walked in it, and it's self-cleaning. It talked to me. It told me I only had 10 minutes to handle my business and get out. I appreciated that because a lot of our folks who are dealing with, who are unhoused, they need a place to have dignity to use the restroom. In addition to that, the abatement team, I want hats off to the abatement team there in District 1, the Cavallo Corridor, East 18th. We're seeing progress there, so hats off to the abatement team as well. But yeah, I just want to bring that to our attention. Thank you again for having me. Allow me to speak. Thanks.
All right, thank you.
Greetings, my name is Ronald Muhammad. I'm a resident shareholder in this corporation called Antioch. I approached some of the council members about trying to help me find a space in terms of we wanted to open up a business here. The response was not necessarily what I'm used to or where I come from in Oakland. And I told them about a lot of vacant properties, and I said what would happen if the properties are not filled. One was the American Tire spot. You could see the writing on the wall. The unhoused, the unsheltered is a combination of a lot of things. It's the mental health, it's poverty, mental health, and it's drugs, which is a bad combination. And so some of the unhoused are going to go in shelters when the places are unoccupied. I would go into a place, legally or illegally, and then subsequently it's going to be fires. People are going to try to warm themselves. They're going to try to burn their feces and things like that, and eventually you're probably going to have a fire. You're going to have a hazardous down the line. It's a history of it. It shouldn't be so hard to try to do business in the city in which you live in. It would only help to address the tax problems. And if you are a conscious owner, you would hire other Antioch folk, which would also help with that aspect of it. I just don't know why it seems in these 10 years that I've been here, why we can't. First, we tried to put it on the past administration, but there's something systematic about this not wanting to work together. I don't know what it is, what is the fixture to it, but something has to happen. Sometimes I regret moving to this city because I've never seen a city not helping to help itself. So I would hope you can get it together, whatever agendas, different agendas people have, that they can put the people first. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Crystal Lawbrooks. I have been a resident here since 2004. The last 5 years, my family and I have been homeless 4 times in the last 5 years. There is no help here. We're not even asking, where's the homeless at? Why couldn't we have this meeting downtown where the homeless people are usually typically at, where we could ask them, what is it that we could do for you? How can we help you? How can we get to you? Because every need is going to be different, and I realize that we can't hit every single person. I understand that. I for real understand that. However, if we can't get to the point where we can even help somebody out off the street, if we can't even get to a point where we could have a homeless shelter to help families like myself so that we don't have to live in a car or spend hundreds of dollars in those hotel rooms, or have our kids out on the street because we don't, or put them into other families' homes because there's no help. Just like she said, you call CORE, you're waiting 6, 7, 8 days just for a call back. You call 211, you're told to call your worker, your worker of the day, or the worker that's there. The worker can't help you because there's no funds. So there's literally no help. Well, go call 211. Okay, well, there's only so much you could do doing 2-in-1. Well, go get help in San Francisco because that's the only help you can really get to be sheltered right away. I don't want to have to take my children all the way to San Francisco. And I'm only giving y'all my story not to feel sorry for me, but to give y'all an aspect as to what families are really dealing with out here. Do you know that downtown, they're literally putting tags on cars right now? People live in those cars on Manzanita. They live in those cars on Sycamore. They live in those cars on Pepper Tree. I understand it's a problem, but to remove them during the winter time, we need to have another way. There has to be another way. I do understand it, but it has to be another way. We have to be able to come to an agreement to where every single person can have a chance to fight. You say it's the city of opportunity, so let's make it the city of opportunity. We can give them jobs. Let's have them cleaning up the trash downtown. Let's have them doing something that is that could help to elevate the city. Let's clean, like, just something else besides just saying, you know what, we're going to go ahead and remove all your stuff from this encampment. You have no time, no chance to even get it done, and we're just going to take all your stuff, and then you're out on the street again with no roof, no nothing. And then you wonder why people are so upset and why they just keep getting torn back down. And then their mental health goes away because then they don't feel like nobody cares. I couldn't get anybody to care. I'm facing homelessness again. 2 months back rent. Because it's so hard here. You guys, we have to come to a conclusion to help these people off the streets.
All right, any other? Yes, Nicole?
Point of order. Do we have to announce our names when we come up to speak?
It is okay for the council to request the names, but it is not required.
Thank you. Nicole Gardner, to be honest with y'all, I don't even know what's going on. I'm looking at the agenda. What I was told was going to happen here was totally different than what's happening here, so I'm very unprepared. I think everybody that spoke pretty much summed it up. I've been coming here for many years talking about the unhoused, the different struggles as an advocate. It has been a long journey. I don't even feel the need to come up here and yell at anybody today or, go through all of that. I think what I really want to happen from just this meeting and future meetings and things to come for the city of Antioch is just for us to work together. Recently, Public Safety and Community Service Resources Department, they had a meeting. And to be honest with you, over the last 7 years, I want to say it was like one of the best meetings that I've ever attended. Having the community come together, having different advocates come together, different organizations, religious groups coming together to try to figure out how to solve this problem. We don't have to keep on telling y'all what the problem is. Y'all already know what the problem is when it comes to the unhoused community, right? So we don't have to, I'm not gonna go over and over about that as far as what we can do, but we do need to start coming together. So I was thinking that this was kind of gonna be about our ad hoc committees and getting that up and running and started when it comes to the unhoused and the different things that we can do. I think coordination was something that we talked about. I really appreciate the Public Safety and Community Resources Department, even as of now, because they have been so transparent. It's really difficult, like as an advocate, when you don't understand what's going on in the background and you just come up here and rah, right? And you don't really know what's going on. But to have them be transparent, send those emails to us, let us know when there's meetings coming up, letting us know when there's events coming up, taking our ideas and running with that. So I think for the most part, I think what I just have to say is we need to start working together. I think Muhammad said it best when it's like, damn, I really just felt as though the city is just trying to not working with nonprofits, not working with people that want to bring businesses here, not working with anybody, and we feel really excluded. So I really feel like if you guys could really take into consideration that we need to start, and we need to keep funding that department. That department is amazing and has been great, and just keep putting money into this because we do. I know we're in a deficit, but we really do need to think about our unhoused community. It's cold outside, y'all. People are freezing. Let's work together to get this done.
morning, or afternoon, I should say. My name is Rosemary Laguna. I'm a resident of Antioch. Thank you guys for what you're doing. I think it's something we really need. We understand that there is a problem all over the place. With these ideas, I would hope also that you involve some of the neighborhoods. We live in a great neighborhood, but we have had several homeless encampments. We'd have them block the driveways. We've had them block. We couldn't even get in our neighborhood. We've had several fires that almost affected our own home. Myself and my husband at times go out and we pick up the garbage. There's needles, there's feces, there's dead animals. There are things that little kids, when they're riding their bikes on that street, should not be seen. So my biggest concern is with everything that we're doing, which I think is great, and I applaud you guys for trying this and really coming up with something great, is also, can we also involve the neighborhoods who deal with this and are really trying to understand? We know there's a problem. We know that help needs to be out there. I work at the hospital. I've worked in mental health for many years. I understand the concern, but we also want to have a neighborhood that is safe for ourselves and our kids, and be okay with going up the street and saying it's okay, or not being afraid. We've had to call the cops several times because we gotten threatened by people who were having their own homeless encampment right in front of our house. That should not be the case in our neighborhoods. So thank you again for everything you guys do. I do appreciate you guys and everything you do. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? All right, seeing none, we will turn this over to Ms. Miller to walk us through our priorities here.
This is a continuation, just to remind you, Council, of the priorities meeting we had earlier. There is 3 action items on the priority that Council has set for unhoused and homelessness, 3 action items to direct the city attorney, the city manager and her staff. After we've given that direction, we're going to ask the city manager if these are doable action items, and they are till June 1st. That's what we agreed upon last time. Okay, so with that, I'm going to ask each council member, we're going to do the exact same thing we did at the last priorities meeting, keeping it consistent, to please write down 3 action items that you believe should be action items on this topic for the city manager. You got yours. Thanks for looking up. Ready? Does anybody need more time? Okay. I'm going to start with Mayor Pro Tem Rocha.
Oh, I get to be first.
Council spent anywhere about, it's completely up to you how much time you want, but to move it along, the suggestion was 3 to 5 minutes to list the items and explain why those are your items. If council wants more time than that, I'll give you a signal when you're at 3 minutes. This is your meeting. Just let me know, and we can adjust however you would like it. I just want to be efficient, too. So balancing efficiency, and just direct me if you want to have more time. Councilmember Rocha, I'm going to go over here.
Okay. Well, from reviewing the report that was developed, I believe it was in 2023, there was some really valuable information in there. I think that the city has worked well in addressing some of the priorities, and then there are some gaps that I read that I think are still open for us to look at. So the first thing I'm looking at, not in particular order, but I would say number one would be looking at our existing services that we provide and supporting and maintaining those systems that we have in place. For example, would be like the IRF, which Opportunity Village, looking at like Base Camp, which is in the Contra Costa County Fairgrounds. And there's a variety of other services going on that I think we need to look to see how we can continue and expand if it's being successful. What can we do to expand and continue it? Looking forward, some things that we need to, I think, really look at. I mean, when I talk to people, whether it's at the barbershop, friends, family, neighbors, one of the things that people always bring is we need a place that's safe, healthy, where people can go. I heard that in the audience when the public comments. One of the things in looking into it is when I read the report, there's a discussion about needing a care center in Antioch. I guess Pittsburgh has one, Concord has one. Antioch does not have a care center where people could come to be able to have assistance with navigating from the situation that they're in and potentially receiving services.
Can I ask you a question about that? Because we're breaking it down to actionable items, and
Well, this isn't actionable.
So what, can you give us one step you think?
Let me.
Oh, sorry, I
finish what I was
apologize.
saying, okay, then I'll get there.
Okay.
So my understanding is there's a property that belongs to the city of Antioch on Delta Fair Boulevard by Los Guadanos College. I believe right around 2020, there was an agreement with the county for like $1 that they would be able to work with the city to develop a program with services, et cetera. Then we hit 2020, that fell through. I believe the city now has that property back. So to me, I think we should look into what can we do with that particular parcel? Is it something that we're going to look at to develop a care center to meet the needs of our unhoused community, our elderly, our veterans, et cetera? Or is it something that we need to look at selling the property so that we have funds to be able to do some things because we're in a crisis financially as well? So what's the best way to utilize what properties we have? And if we don't have a program or something that we can put there, maybe we need to look at selling the property to bring in some income so we can look at other things that we're trying to do. That would be, and that was referred to as a care center. Okay, and that's what was in the report.
I apologize for cutting you off earlier.
No problem. I can speak for a while, so it's good to cut me off. And then the final thing I have is, again, action items, is through CDBG and Housing Successor, we've had discussions about where we go as we move forward with reallocating funds that have not been utilized in the way in which it was intended. One that comes up is Hope Solutions. My understanding was Grace Arms. Hope Solutions were funded previously to assist with providing shelter for unhoused community. I'm not sure where Grace Arms is in their particular project. My understanding is Hope Solutions cannot go forward. So there's about approximately, I could be wrong, mistaken on the number, but I think it's 1.3. And that's a significant amount of money for us to decide what are we going to do to best utilize those funds the way it was intended. So my question would be, how are we utilizing the funds that are available to us here and now? I believe those funds sunset in April of 2026. So we need to utilize what we can while we have it so we don't lose it. My understanding is that Hope Solutions, again, this is kind of in the same vein, is an application we applied for. And I understand that there's been some updates that potentially we may receive that particular application. I believe it's going to be reviewed coming up soon, I'm not sure, at a future meeting. So to me, that's all kind of in the same basket. We have funding available. We also have potential funding coming in through the home key application, in which I've also heard discussion about across the street from Opportunity Village. There's another motel across the street where there's been discussion if we were to receive additional funds through home key, maybe that could be an option. So those would be my three areas.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Councilwoman Torres Walker, would you like to go next?
No, but I'll give it a shot. Hello, everyone. So first, I would like to say to Crystal to please reach out to the Department of Public Safety and Community Resources and the city, because we do have someone working in the city to support tenants who are facing eviction. So please reach out and see how we can help. Our warming center used to happen at the Nick Rodriguez Center. Nick Rodriguez Center is currently under construction, and so I'm hoping that there can be conversations, maybe even with some support from the county, to think about how we can get people off the streets. Last night, it reached 41 degrees, and that was just before midnight. And I'm sure by the time I fell asleep, it was probably 30 degrees, so it's really cold outside. Those are urgent issues. People living in their cars, so CDBG dollars from the city actually initially funded the safe parking site at St. Ignatius. And then St. Ignatius was able to go out and get more funding to expand that. This city does need to consider continuing to develop partnerships with other entities to create more safe parking sites, because unfortunately we are living in a day and age where not just individuals are living in their cars, working families are living in their cars, and families with children are living in their vehicles. In relation to encampments, yes, when we clear an encampment, we actually have nowhere to send anybody to. And so, not saying that we don't need to clear those encampments, but we definitely need to think about more strategic strategies around placing people in temporary housing as we clear encampments that can be a public health risk. We have discussed the opportunity for talking about vacant properties, so I'm glad it was mentioned today by a community member. The city of Richmond thought about this a while back, is leaving properties vacant actually does create a public safety risk, because people break into those properties, crime happen in those properties and everything. And so I know the city of Oakland had a ballot measure that went forward, which was Measure W, to actually tax vacant property owners, bringing resources into that city for the potential of housing and other economic development, but also the potential for those owners to use it or lose it if they don't do something with those vacant properties in the city. One thing I think, like, there are unhoused veterans on the street, and so I think, like, it's very important when I'm thinking about priorities. I think the least that could happen in 6 months is having conversations with Swords and Plowshares. They do the Swords and Plowshares. They do a lot of housing development for veterans, and we have a lot of unhoused veterans on the street. By the way, none of those were my priorities. They were just my responses to the public, because I think we should respond when people are speaking to us. But the Swords and Plowshares conversation, I think it can get started. I'm not saying it's long range, right? But no. Yeah. Oh, you don't want them erased? That was my response to the public. I don't think people should talk at us, and we should respond. So the conversation, unhoused veterans, having a conversation with Swords and Plowshares to see what are the opportunities to come here in Antioch, and I was specifically thinking about that vacant lot in District 2. It was one of the lots, the lot that Mayor Pro Tem Rocha was actually talking about, the lot that we had to take back from the county. It actually would be a great lot for veterans housing, and so if we reach out to Swords and Plowshares and put the potential of starting up conversations around developing some veteran housing on that site, that would be great. One of the other things that I think could potentially happen right away is that this council could prioritize home key, and we can make sure that the opportunity for the Comfort Inn with the 80+ rooms to house more individuals off the streets here in the city of Antioch, we could take that application serious and actually have a meeting so we could allocate the funds to the developer and make sure that we have a successful home key application. And maybe this is just an update from the city manager, but I'm still not clear, and a community member mentioned this, I'm still not clear on where's the task force that was supposed to be created, because I haven't received an invitation, and we were talking about what that task force will focus on earlier in the year and its potential. An update from Mayor Bernal on the ad hoc committee around homelessness and housing, because those were two separate issues. And we had a conversation, I believe it would have been Mayor Pro Tem Rocha and Mayor Ron Bernal, that would potentially be appointed to an ad hoc committee to have discussions around housing and homelessness, but we never did get an update on what the purpose of that commission would be and the work that they would be doing that wouldn't be duplicative to the task force. So it'd be great to get an update on that. Now, I think this is related to partnerships when we're talking about encampments. A lot of encampments are on the railway. And so the right-of-way of the railway is like once they move off of city property and onto the railway, then it becomes more complicated to even think about resources and like moving people off the railway. So people move closer and closer to where they feel safe because the city actually can't move them. And so if we don't start a partnership, and I don't know the name of the two railways.
BNSF and.
Yeah, BNSF and Union Pacific.
Again.
We actually, it was brought to my attention that sometimes the city does use our own resources to clear the railway, but then they don't reimburse us for that. I think I just want to understand where is the relationship, because I understand why people are moving closer to the railroad. It's because we don't technically have the authority of a city to move them, so it's a safer option. Lastly, any update on Care Court at the state level? Where is it? What is it doing? Is it an unfunded mandate? And how could it help us here in the city of Antioch or our families? So most of that is just like updates, meetings. I think that could happen in 6 months.
Thank you very much.
Some really good stuff up there. One of my first, these are not necessarily in order, but my first action item would be an assessment of resources that are needed. And we can achieve that by, one, the data that we're getting from the county, two, sitting down with our community-based organizations that are on the ground and see firsthand what is needed. Because sometimes we'll say as a council, well, let's bring in this, and then our community-based organizations are like, well, that's not what's being asked for. So if we can get an assessment of the resources that are needed. That's not an item. Two, and I know that I need to get to an action item, but the point I want to bring up, back in 2014 or 2015, the county did a report of the the growth of the population in Contra Costa County in comparison to the resources that are there. And that report really shows that as communities grow, as communities were growing, the resources didn't come with them. Case in point, in East County, there's no shelter. That's why we have a problem with people, calling, saying there's no shelter and they have to take them someplace else. So that's something I know we really need to sit down with the county and ourselves, and actually our regional community, which means the cities of Pittsburgh, Brentwood, Oakley, and working together on how do we get that resource in Eastern Contra Costa County. A few months ago, so the action item is really bringing the communities or the cities of East County, the county, and our community-based organizations together on how do we get a shelter out here? Because the county definitely needs to be at the table when we're having these conversations. And we have two representatives that represent East County on the Board of Supervisors. So that's my action item for that one. And my next action item, a couple months ago, myself and the city manager were approached by Goodwill on a workforce development opportunity. And they're reaching out to cities throughout the Bay Area about not necessarily having a place where just donations come, but a place that would be a workforce development center for people to come to have resources, to get job training, whether it's in sales or administration or leadership abilities or whatever type of skills. But they were reaching out to different cities of where they could potentially put a center that would help with workforce development. And I think that's something we probably should circle back on. And I put public health, addressing our public health issue, because there were a couple items that were brought up from our public speakers in regards to restrooms, a place to shower, getting connected to health services. I know that's not necessarily an action item, but I had it down on my notes, so just put it there.
Okay, so the issues and the challenges of the unhoused and the homeless are extraordinary. We all know that. We all understand that. And I sometimes think the approach of government is kind of let's try to address absolutely every single issue that we can, because they're all needed. We understand that. And so I know we've talked about the ad hoc committee. Frankly, after reading these reports, having the discussion, and thinking about for the past year, my first recommendation, instead of having a committee and having information filtered to the city council, I would suggest that as a city council, with open meetings in the evening, so that more of the public can participate, the speaker earlier, the neighborhoods, so we don't have to have as formal meetings, but all 5 of us are engaged in establishing that this is a priority. And I would suggest maybe a 2-year transitional period, so that we, the decision makers, can hear directly from the advocates and from those who are actually experiencing the challenges of homelessness and the issues that are involved there. I think that having you come, having a relationship, introducing yourself so that we know who you are, what you represent, helps us as decision makers to understand some of the issues. I'm learning things, here today, and I think that that's critical. So from my perspective, the number one priority is to involve the entire city council over a 2-year period of time, every other month having a meeting in the evening, and we can have it at different locations in the community, because homelessness is in all parts of our community, and so that we can have a dialogue, a true dialogue. And as advocates and affected people, you can influence the decision makers on a constant period of time. So I would even go so far as to say meet the third Tuesday of February. I'm not sure if that's a holiday or not. And then every other month, we meet and we start to address the issues. And by that, I'm saying, we need to focus on some of the issues. And myself, again, reading the reports that we have and some of the comments that were made, what are the emergency services that the city of Antioch is going to offer? If you call, you should get an immediate response. It should not be, if you're in an emergency, you need a response. Not 5 days, not 2 days, sometimes, quite frankly, not a couple hours. It is an emergency. And I think as a priority, from my perspective, we need to focus on those emergencies. We need to have warming in the winter, but we also have to have cooling in the summer. Those are real issues and we don't. We just don't. And we have not been particularly creative on how to do that. But that, to me, is an emergency. People are suffering, then, how is the city of Antioch going to handle this? And so I keep hearing the speakers talk about it. To me, that is the most basic, fundamental thing that we can focus on. Yes, we can talk about economic development. Yes, we can talk about, health issues and on and on and on. But I think as a focus, an immediate focus, we can put our hands around and talk to affected people and say, okay, how do you define an emergency? Food, public health, the ability to take a shower and to be clean, clothing, access to some medical, support. I think it's amazing, and I know doctors and dentists and things of that sort leave their practice and go around the world. But what about a program locally? Now, the veterans do that once every other year, but what about having something on a consistent basis? And I think that, I don't know. I think that, we need to understand if the elected person doesn't know, then I suspect most don't know. And that's an issue. Yeah, so for me, number one, I think the city council as a full body, not an ad hoc committee. And number two, that our focus has to be on immediate emergency items and how to respond to somebody in need immediately. All the other issues, and we, you, us, everybody, have to start saying, okay, of all 60 issues, which ones are we going to prioritize and focus, which comes to the third priority, and that is financial. We need to know, it's how much money have we been spending? What have we been spending it on? Has it been effective? Is it successful? Or are we just throwing dollars and hoping for the best? And so since 2021, we need to have a full accounting. A priority of this city is where have we spent money? What was successful? What wasn't? What needs to be eliminated or added or modified? Because ultimately, every single issue comes down to resources. It comes down to available money. Let's not kid ourselves. And I agree with Council Member Monica Wilson. I think we need to use Delta 6, which is the collaborative East Contra Costa group, to start addressing this issue sub-regionally. When we do something, it affects everybody else. When they do something, it affects us. But that dialogue is not happening. And we need to do that. And so that, to me, if 4 cities and the county apply for grants or programs, we will be more successful than just one entity.
Yeah, so I took this more of as immediate things that we could get done, and there's a lot of good work going on in the city right now, and a lot of people putting their hearts, as we've heard, and their own personal resources into homelessness in our community, and I think that's a lot of it's not organized. A lot of it's just folks going out there and just handing out sandwiches and giving somebody a blanket when they see somebody in need. But I think having a list of everything the city is currently invested in, because I know through CDBG and through a lot of different things, we have programs, housing programs, different programs. I think that having a list, how much money we're spending this year, for example, on those different things, and then taking all of that and putting it in one spot so that we have a one-stop shop on our website, not necessarily how much we're spending, but where these resources are located and where people can access them, I think would be a starting place. And then I also think just from the comment about people not even knowing this meeting was happening, until 2 hours ago or whatever, I think also the communication when it comes to homelessness and unhoused and housing needs to have a central point of communication from the city standpoint, so that and I know we're working on that with our housing manager, so we're working in that direction. So that's one thing. I don't know why the restroom downtown or down at City Park has been closed, but I'd like to find out why and see if that can be reopened again as a I know our other neighborhood and city parks have restrooms that are open and accessible, and I don't know why, but I'd like to have someone look into why that's not open and if it can be reopened. The emergency shelter is one of my priorities. The warming center, the cooling center, something that we can do, a warming center for this winter right away. I know that Nick Rodriguez isn't available, but finding something, and maybe it's partnering with a churches, other locations, but I think that's an immediate need that we talk about, but we don't put the resources towards finding a solution. So I'd like to see that be something. And then also to Councilmember Rocha and others have talked about our 5 acres out there on Delta Fair, that finding out, I know the city manager has been working with the county on that property and getting an update on where we are with a concerted effort with them. And I guess the thing I'd like to say to folks that are here today and even to our council is that, this is not something Antioch can solve on our own financially, and we need to have partnerships with other folks to make this a reality. And so that's something that I just think it's really important for us not forget is the county is really the entity that's going to be the best resource for us. They've already helped us with Opportunity Village as far as getting that $6.8 million up and running. So that's going to be really important as far as that relationship is concerned. I think the other thing that jumps out to me as immediate is the safe parking program. It's over at St. Ignatius. It seems to me like it's underutilized. I don't know why. I know that there's a lot of reasons, things people have to do in order to get into the safe parking program. And I know it's called safe parking not just because it's safe for people that are there parked, but also from people that may be predators of the folks who are staying there. So I would like to find out more about that program and how we can promote that better to get more folks to utilize it that maybe are parked on the street on the streets. Vacant property, warming center. I think, and also warming center, care facility as well. That's a longer term thing. That would go, but that's also in just the 5 acre property, because I know that's part of that discussion as far as that's concerned. Yeah, so those are things that I think are on my immediate list of the next 6 months that we'd be able to pursue.
Thank you very much. The reason we set this is because these are fantastic ideas, but we are today simply doing the task, and you guys, I think all of council did a beautiful job of fantastic ideas, of giving direction, because I agree with Councilmember Freitas, and the reason we're all here is if you don't just choose specific things that you can measure, then nothing gets done, right? Because there's too much. So although these are great ideas, we're going to choose just 3 things out of this board together. And before we do that, I wanted to turn it over for comments from the city manager on any of this.
Yes, thank you so much. I actually really appreciate the comments, crossover ideas, and priorities. In order to get a baseline of what can be done, I want to speak from an operational perspective. So one of the things that Councilmember Freitas and I are very samesies about is data-informed decision-making. I just want to be very clear. There is not a single data analyst in this city. There is not a single policy analyst in this city. There is not a single enterprise management system and software in this city. So if you want to know how much you're spending on homelessness, we'd have to deploy many people to comb through invoices, purchase orders, receipts, emails, on the ground. It would take a lot of work to tell you how much you're spending on unhoused service delivery. I'm not sure how that happened, but going forward, there needs to be an operational structural fix to understand how, and we thank Kelly Zelinka for her operational assessments, wherein she noticed, I think, 78 different platforms that are overlapping, contradictory, not used, underused. We don't have the right ones. So cost centers, I don't know how to get that going. We'd have to tear it all down and build it all up. So if you want to make data-informed decisions, you're going to have to do the bare minimum, which is to hire the people who can come in and tell you, or we're going to have to hire a consultant to do a homelessness investments analysis. No one on staff has the expertise to do that but me, and I cannot do that because I'm running 13 departments. In order to have extra meetings, it also takes staffing time. Please understand that at 120, almost 1,000 people in a full-service city with a water plant, the baseline staffing level is 750 to 1,200 people. You have less than half of 750 people as of today. You are already at a skeleton crew. So taking all that into account, these things are not insurmountable, but they will take longer to scale some of these priorities. And I just want to make sure that we all are on the same page about that.
So,
Can I add one more thing to my list?
yes.
That the city manager comes back with an assessment of the, would you say like you meant? But what the data is important, so what we need to do as an organization to be able to come up with data. So whatever that looks like, I think.
Sure.
I think that's important. I mean, that's bigger picture, not just for this, but organizationally.
Do you have an ideal staffing structure?
Yes. I also need like about $100 million more dollars. No, I'm just kidding.
No, I mean, because I know we've been having this conversation for a while about being in a structural deficit.
Yes.
About being understaffed as a city of our size. And we have had a significant number of resignations currently.
Yes.
Which is, again, going to lead us into a significant staffing deficit next year while we're hiring as people, you are hiring as people are leaving and department heads are looking for quality staff. But then we have all of this analysis we want to do, and you mentioned 3 additional positions that we never heard we needed before.
I think I've been saying that since I got
Well,
here in terms of policy and data.
The policy and data, but it was an additional one you mentioned, not just the policy and data one.
No, we just need data analysts and policy analysts. But I do think that there are, like you're saying, embedded supports. So there are people here who have components that can be scaled, like your GIS division. The mayor and I have talked about this quite often, how it's underused, and they are actually on the pulse of trending. They can tell you what's happening across the city, from street maintenance to funding and how many purchase orders are closed. No one's asked them, and so there are quick fixes, and you have to choose 3 things so we can do them really well. Take down the number of meetings so we can do our work instead of getting ready for meetings, and then try to embed data scaling into some of the current positions, since we don't have funding for new positions. So things have to come off of people's plates.
I mean, when we're talking about like data and best practices, I know that when we're talking about unhoused folks in this community, like, the city has only been serving the unhoused population for 5 years. So, like, we as a city haven't done a lot. I mean, it's only been 5 years that the city has invested. But we do have nonprofits and other community-based organizations, for examples like churches, that have been serving the unhoused population in this city for more than 10 years. And I'm assuming they have data, they have information, they know who they serving in the community. I would like to also say that it's a little bit more strategic of a response than handing out blankets and sandwiches. Because I have seen these groups be more well-organized than even the city's response at times. So I wouldn't diminish that activity as handing out blankets and sandwiches, when it's actually a lot more organized and a lot more strategic, and they gather their own data and they have their own reports. Not only do they get civic enhancement grants and other grants from the city, which I'm sure they track on their own, they also get different grants from philanthropy and the county and other state entities, which I'm sure they track that on their own. So what would it look like in the short term to actually invite those partners to a table who have been serving this community for more than 10 years? The city just started stepping up. I'm sure they have more data and analysis than we currently have right now as a city. And like starting off with some of that as a baseline as we get our own structures in place.
Yes, I agree. I think that's the one consistent message I'm hearing from you and Councilmember Wilson, Councilmember Freitas. So the assessment, I think even tracking back to the 2014 report that Councilmember Wilson has mentioned, what are people doing and what's the delta between the resources? This is something that, we have talked about in terms of how do we set the conversations, which the mayor has put on, I believe, twice, the agenda for talking about unhoused efforts across the D6, the Delta 6 group. So then expanding that and having, I think, a regional meeting with the council would be a really great starting point. I do think that there are a lot of individuals, CBOs, churches, there are even individuals who are doing work and there isn't sort of streamlined information sharing, but they do have great data. I also think that the county has said over and over again that the continuum, the homeless continuum, is broken. We're also focused on post-housing loss instead of pre and prevention. So when members of the community say that they need rental assistance, City of Antioch has a rental assistance program. So if you can't pay rent this month, you should call us. And people don't. So why don't people know? I think that's a conversation that Councilmember Freitas and I are having about our PIO, who is actually defending his dissertation right now for his doctorate, so he's not here. But so what does that look like? Because there is a resource management and an education outreach initiative that is not coalescing in terms of our resources, because we do set quite a bit of money aside in the city for these efforts.
And real quickly, to Councilmember Torres Walker, my comment about blankets and sandwiches was not meant towards the organized groups. It was meant towards folks who just go out on their own to hand things out. So that wasn't intended towards our organized groups.
I just saw the looks on people's faces, and
Yeah,
I was
it wasn't intended
They're
for
not
folks that are,
unappreciated.
no, I just meant folks that go out on their own. So sorry if that was misunderstood.
Okay, so we're going to streamline this conversation. All the ideas are good. We just have to come up with 3 measurable priorities as a group. I'm going to show you what the priorities, the patterns I see in what you've said. Remember, when these priorities have been accomplished, council at any time can give 3 more priorities off this board. So the themes I see are existing use. 3 of you talked about existing use of the property. And that property parcel is, can you remind me where it is?
Delta Fair.
Delta Fair. So 3 of you talked about that. There was a lot of conversation about data and data gathering. And then, I would include the data gathering, including the financial effects of what we are doing. That could be included in data gathering and figuring out what data gathering is. And then there was, so the Delta Fair, the vacant lots, and the Delta Fair vacant lots, I'm just going to submit that that was brought up by 4 of you. I counted wrong. Does anybody have, yes?
One thing I heard, and I don't believe I spoke to it, but I've heard 2 or 3 of my colleagues state, is the here and now immediate. So when we're talking about what can we do now in terms of like warming center? Oh, I'm sorry. What I'm saying is that what I heard my colleagues say, I wasn't actually something that I had stated earlier, but one of the themes I've heard, what are things that we can do now when we look at prioritizing? And for example, the warming center that used to be, I guess it was held at the recreation center, and that's closed right now. I recall hearing that the public library on 18th Street was a possibility. So to me, I think that's a short-term action item that we could do right away. So things like that, the bathroom being open downtown, or restroom facilities that could be open. So I would suggest that we are going to zero down into 2 or 3 focus areas, but I do think that we probably need to look at the here and now on some of these immediate action items that we can definitely handle. For example, I brought up the property on Delta Fair. That's not going to be that's not going to be resolved in 2 weeks. But the warming center, showers, bathroom facilities, how we support existing programs, that could be done, I think, relatively soon. So I would say we should probably look at what's in our ability to do sooner than later. And those things that we can do later, maybe they fall to number 2 and 3. That would be my suggestion.
Okay, so that, what you just said, I think goes right along with what Councilmember Freitas called emergencies. Okay, so on the table is, we have to be really specific with these emergencies, but on the table handing emergencies, let's just call it, because it's warming center, because it's cold right now, and this is going to be done before the cooling center will be needed. If it was a warming center emergency, what would be the action item somebody suggests? To get a warming center going up, if that's an emergency that the warming center is brought up by several of you, what action item would be suggested?
I'm not following what you're asking.
So if your category is,
Are you speaking in terms of
You
like
saying if we
identifying?
want a warming center, what are the steps to take to get there?
yes.
Yeah, that's what.
Thank you.
So, I know the county and the nonprofits who actually, the city, the county, and our organizations who serve unhoused residents supported the warming center. And so I think it still would, even though it was housed in Antioch, it wasn't us as a city who like technically staffed it. It was the county operation with volunteers from the community who showed up to help it because they have to run, at night and everything. And I think the city provided like the space and maybe some staff, but like then we didn't have the staffing to do it on our own as a city. And now we don't have the staffing to do it on our own as a city, but maybe re-engaging in a conversation with the county, but we would have to find we would have to identify a location because we use the city-owned property.
So what I'm hearing is emergencies, there's a couple quick, easy things like why is the bathroom closed? And what do we do to try to find a property for a warming center? And we can make those all under emergencies. Does anybody object to Mayor Pro Tem Rocha's suggestion that emergencies be the first priority?
I don't object, but again, this is kind of a shotgun approach.
Yeah.
Where it's going all over the place. I think the suggestion that Council Member Torres Walker said, my suggestion is, the council having a community meeting with some of the nonprofits and asking them directly, what do you define as immediate?
So hold on. So
okay, it's a community meeting.
Yeah.
All right, and so I think and so we can hear it. So the city manager can say, okay, of those emergency, maybe 10 things come up.
So I want to ask you, would you like, because I don't want to do the shotgun approach, what would you, now we've switched away from the emergency conversation to the meeting conversation.
No, it's still emergency
same-
conversation.
it's the same
It's the same conversation.
It's still
Okay.
the same. He's almost
Nothing's
suggesting
changed.
an
Okay.
assessment, that we do a community assessment of what
It's the first step.
needs are.
But,
Right.
what's it, Melissa, is it Melissa? No, behind you.
Crystal.
Nicole, Crystal, I'm sorry. What Crystal said, I think, is so incredibly valid. There are resources that nobody knows about.
Get the word out.
Nobody knows about. So for me, emergency, urgent now, is what resources can we offer? And if someone calls in, walks in, sends a letter, how do we respond immediately?
So what I'm hearing is that we communicate what we have now in a better way to make a priority for emergencies. Did I hear you right?
And customer service. If somebody makes a request, it has to be dealt immediately. I'm talking about immediate, urgent. If somebody is starving, we've got to get that person food. If they're freezing, we've got to get them a warming center or clothes or something like. I'm talking about truly emergency.
And I want to make sure to set the expectations for emergent management. So we can do a communication plan that's easy. The PIO, as well as Director Cabral, can do an education and outreach initiative with regards to what the services are in Antioch and what the services are in the county. Emergency services and management, that is outside of the staffing purview. Staff is not in a position to stop and hunt down food for people, so be very specific about what you're asking us to scale, because I don't understand what you mean by the emergency response.
I heard something different. I heard February 2nd, or the third meeting in February, going to the community to have them tell us what they need.
Yeah, I think, frankly, we've been talking a lot about these issues for the past year. I mean, a year has passed, and there have been some improvement, but, the need is still out there. We need to hold ourselves accountable as we ask everybody else to be held accountable. And so part of that is getting us the information, giving us the details, what the cost, and how to do it. I mean, maybe some of this can be done by volunteers or nonprofit corporations and things of that sort, or churches or synagogues or temples. But we need to know, because, right now, today, we don't have those resources. So what is it? We have to define it in order to do it.
And is there a way that we could add like a special meeting to an existing council date?
Sure.
Okay, because I just don't want to, it's a lot to.
Right now, we're talking about urgent emergency.
So you want the first meeting in February, is there?
No, what I said, starting in February, on the third Tuesday and every 2 months after, we would have a meeting, not an ad hoc meeting, we would have a meeting. We would invite, nonprofits and the churches and the synagogues and things of that sort, come and educate us. But we have to, again, the shotgun approach has not worked.
Right.
You know, we have to be realistic about, okay, what resources do we have? What are the urgent problems? And let's do something about it. Let's start getting some successes because they're all valid.
It's true. So what I have on the floor from Councilmember Freitas, we're going to break it down into specifics, but I just want to see where the other council is with his suggestion. I have, starting in February, third Tuesday, going to meetings in the community to listen. Council?
I don't think people, so I don't have a problem with starting a World Cafe next year to talk about the urgent issues facing unhoused folks. I don't have a problem for that. I think the question that I'm trying to get answered by this council is February is a long way away.
It is.
And so I'm saying like we can start those conversations next year, but like how many more unhoused people are gonna die in the cold between now and February are gonna die in the cold because we have had that, right? When the rain actually starts coming down, how many are gonna die in these creeks from the cold and drowning? How many more are going to be ran over by trains between now and February or cars? How many people, I guess what people are wondering is like, and what I'm wondering is like, what is the idea for now while we like move into this larger like conversation every quarter next year? And it's because I hear the concerns from people. I see the posts about people going missing on the streets. I see the posts about people dying from the cold and everything, and it's getting colder. So I guess I'm wondering, it's like, yes, updating websites, finding out what resources exist at the county level of government, what resources exist at Antioch level as the government, because we don't provide as a government everything nonprofits provide in the community. So maybe we should actually get an assessment from them and get links up on our website so people could actually know how to contact them, because we don't have the capacity to respond quickly. We don't have the staff and capacity to do great customer service in this city right now. And so I'm worried about setting up an expectation for people that they're gonna call the city when they face an eviction and they're gonna get an immediate response with some resources, because my concern is that it's not gonna happen. So I don't wanna set people up like that right now. But it's just like, I don't know how to have this conversation without also knowing that somebody might die tonight. And I also don't wanna like rush into something that could be significant and set us up like for long-term solutions. So I don't know where we want to.
Well, we could talk about really quickly that there is a pretty large team. Half of them are over on that table. And Public Works is in the back. We have been having the conversations. It's actually one of my first emails was about cooling and warming centers. And so we're continuing to have those. We have been asking, how do we plug into existing systems? What churches in Antioch are available, because we did let them use Nick Rodriguez. Our own staffing costs, even helping the county, was, I believe, $2,000 to $4,000 or $5,000 a night. And so what our director, Cabral, has been doing is going out and asking churches, CBOs, what to do. So the responses that we're getting is questions from them. So what are the operational needs and expectations? So they're requesting information from us about what we can do in terms of furnishing logistics for people who don't have it, facility care, and the city has to then get liability insurance because we're asking them to help us. So what's our responsibility? What does that look like for post-activation? What funding do we have for this? What are the contractual considerations? So there are lots of conversations that are happening, which is, we have a consultant over there too who's in charge of this, that are happening in terms of the warming center. So we can provide you with a memorandum update as we're standing one up. And remember, we don't have the ability, we're not the county to stand that up. So we have to plug into an existing system, even using our own facility. But we have been working on that. And so immediately that is one of the priorities of the table over there.
So what I'm hearing is, I'm just going to narrow the conversation I'll go to. What I'm hearing is not conflicting at all. And we can do both. And I'm hearing want the information. Both of you are saying you want the community to tell you. And you're here to listen to the community, and you want the community to tell you how to fix it and then put in suggestions. So they could be a data for emergency and still the February meeting, and those could be two priorities, because we only get to do 3. Doesn't mean they're not going to change and not going to be no more, but I'm just saying that's what I'm hearing. The information the two of you are talking about is not conflicting. I'm sorry I cut you off, Mayor Bernal.
All I was going to say is, it seems to me like this discussion is trying to have a workshop about homeless issues right now, like how we're going to solve issues, when we're supposed to be putting up priorities of what we want to accomplish in the next 6 to 7, 8 months. And so
6 months.
6 months. And so that's like, they're like one-liners, right? Like
Right.
what is the goal? And so I don't,
So let me go back
No,
to the
wait,
board.
there's not consensus about the 6 months.
That's-
I said 2 years. A 2-year city council commitment, not 6 months, 2 years. But I just want you to understand, I think 6 months is ridiculous.
no, so this was just, when I said 6 months, the priorities that we're setting, they could go longer, but the idea was that these are things that the city manager can work towards in the near future, not
This is-
something so aspirational.
This was to hold the city manager accountable in a 6-month period of time, which we did at the last time of her action items.
Right.
That's what was talked about last time. So I'm going to go back to the board to get our priorities down. I'm going to go back to the meeting on February 2nd. Does anybody want to second that motion to make it a priority to go to the community, having council be responsible for going to the community, having meetings in the community, and listening to the people in the community? Does anybody want to second that? That is what's on the table.
I'll second that.
I don't mind starting in February, but I think it's a little premature to say what date.
Can we can I come back to you with what is possible for our staffing? So we have a clerk who's retiring, a new team, and we have limited funding because we pay every time many hundreds of dollars an hour. So what is possible also in terms of, please tack something on a special meeting to your existing council meeting. So February 10th, we would add an hour or 90 minutes to the community for a community discussion. Please be very streamlined about how we're using our resources and time, because we don't have the bandwidth for extra meetings. We cannot get operations done. And so if there's a kickoff meeting that's separate, I believe that standalone, that would be great. But the continued conversation, please tack it on to existing council meetings.
I would also be willing to just attend a meeting put on by the organizations in the community and not the council to present and have conversations, if that's also something that people want to actually take on as a community themselves, while we figure out our schedule and staffing.
Okay. So a request is on the table for council, we don't have a date yet, but council to agree to tack on to other meetings and go to the people and listen to the people of what they need and to tell you what they need. And I'm hearing the city manager, if we do that in addition to a meeting we already have, that would help with resources. I think that's the issue on the table, is can that be one priority? Does anybody have anything they want to add to that? Anybody have an objection to that priority? Okay, so we have one priority down, and that priority is a 2-year plan for council to go into the community, listen to the community every other month, tacked on to an already existing meeting regarding homelessness. We have that plan. So the direction to the city manager is to, I also heard a different suggestion also that could go in this, is to set up or invite to the meeting a proposal from the people that already have the data or have some data that have been working with the community, and ask them to propose information that council can learn. Okay, we have one priority. Thank you. And Bessie, is that acceptable? Can that be something that can be
Yes,
done?
thank you.
Okay. The second thing that many of council talked about is the property. Does anybody want to say something specific the city manager can do about that property?
I do. That property, you know, we tried to actually do transitional housing 25 years ago on that property. And institutionally, Contra Costa County has delayed. So I think involving our two county supervisors and say, we have to quickly resolve this issue. I dealt with it 25 years ago to do transitional housing on that property. That is way too long. And the obstacle has not necessarily been the city at all. It has been the county. And so, since I know the city manager is trying to work with the county, but sometimes let's stop being so nice and be demanding, because if we truly want to develop that 5 acres, which has the PG&E power poles and other issues, then let's do it. I mean, 25 years is enough. It's ridiculous.
So, any comments on
I
that?
think it will be reasonable for which the city manager has already started conversations with the county. I think for the short term, to start those conversations, keep those conversations going, include council or updates. But I think like if this council actually wants to see that become something, then it would need to be not necessarily like a priority of the city manager. It would need to be a priority of the council. So maybe you can switch it up like you did the first one, where it was like the priority for the city manager is to make sure the meeting happened and the nonprofits are there, but the council has this two-year strategy, how you kind of separated it out.
Right.
Yeah, and again, Delta 6, which involves the 4 incorporated cities in the county, and that the mayor and the city manager are part, that's really the forum to do that from a political part. But oftentimes, where it gets stymied is not the political part, it is the staffing part.
And I have an update about Delta Fair. So I have been meeting with the county housing director, Director Saxton. We went over this for Delta Fair for about 3.5, 4 months. And so what I understand is in 2023, the city council voted to take back the land because there were some delays in actual contracting, getting bids for the land. At that time, the county set aside a few $1 million for the homeless shelter there. And they spent about $280,000 to $500,000 on the concept and the design. We have that. I'm happy to send it to you all. And so once we decided we're going to give it back, the council voted to have me go to the county and give the land back. They no longer had the funding source for building the property. So the question I have is, the assignment to council would be then to reach out to the supervisors and advocate and in terms of your governing on behalf of the city. The staff, there's nothing we can do about it, because on the staffing side, we even tried to get the money through the county's behavioral health wing, and they just didn't have enough. So for right now, if we're going to ask them to take over, what I usually do is give them the money, which is what happened with the ERF3 and what will happen with the ERF4. So for this, there needs to be a dedicated sort of legislative advocacy, and maybe, this is for the Mayor Pro Tem, Councilmember Wilson and the mayor. This may be the next item on the DC trip in January. We have to figure out who we're asking, though. And so what that strategy is has nothing to do with it, because as Councilmember Freitas said, staffing, we can't do anything at this point. We tried.
So what I'm hearing,
I think
there's
like
another
they
issue.
were
There are
they
two
were
county
not committing.
There are 2 county supervisors that asked for us. They each have $1 million in ARPA money. And, to me, this is a regional, sub-regional issue that the 2 county supervisors can appropriate. Some of the money they have left over in ARPA to move this project forward. Now, they don't have enough to build it, but they do have enough to start it. And it's all, again, it's sub-regional, Eastern Contra Costa County. They have it. One supervisor, I read the article, she has decided she's going to do it for a 3-year period of time. Well, maybe we can talk to her and say, we need $250,000 or something like that, because everybody would benefit from that in eastern Contra Costa County.
And what I heard to me,
We wanted, so I believe, like, let's just be transparent about what happened. The city gave the county this property for $1, and they sat on the property. Yes, they created a concept and a plan, and they had some money, but even in that process, they were not committing to break ground before 5 years.
Yeah,
They were not committing to break ground before 5 years, which means we would have entered into that, and they wouldn't have even been breaking ground until probably now or a year from now. So that was like, wait a minute, we sat on it for this long, why would we wait 5 years for you to actually break ground? They will be breaking ground now. Not only was it that, it was like, we were saying, well, if you don't break ground in 5 years, then we'll take the property back. We'll take the property back. If you don't, and they couldn't commit to that as a county, because what they wanted to move forward was to say that they might potentially break ground in 5 years, but then they wanted to remove the clause that the city cannot take the property back if they don't break ground in 5 years. And so how do you negotiate something like that?
So Tracy, I think this is a priority. I think we all view this as a priority, not only for the city of Antioch, but for eastern Contra Costa County. And I think the political discussion, and I think Delta 6 is where it needs, and we have to hold people accountable. You know, I mean, it's 25 years. Give me a break.
so I heard you that that's the priority. I'm writing it down, but I heard Councilmember Torres Walker suggest that council take this. Last time we gave the city attorney some tasks, so all the priorities, all three don't have to be just for the city manager. I heard her say that council take this on. Does anybody object to that? Because we talk about politics.
Well, my question
Delta 6 is elected and professional.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. When does Delta 6 meet, and what's the, what do we need to do to be able to bring this item up for a discussion that we feel is a priority?
So Delta 6 meets quarterly, and there's an agenda that all 4 cities and the county contribute to. So this is not the only item on the agenda. We've had it on twice already, but there's 4 or 5 or 6 other things on it. So Delta 6 is a place where we initiate things, but it needs to be pursued outside of Delta 6.
So I have on the board a motion for council to do something about working with the supervisors. Is there any action item we can take just to move forward, so it's not just staying there? 'Cause this
Can I
is-
ask the council maybe to modify that a little bit? What if we look at, since the county sounds like they've been difficult for 25 years and maybe continue to be difficult, what if we frame this as work with the county, but also look at other options for the Delta Fair property, so that it could be a matter of what else might we do with it? Because that's 5 acres, tiny home, whatever. There might be a nonprofit out there that wants to take it down if we would give them the property. So maybe there's some other possibilities.
In other areas.
I'm into that because I
Like
want
CDBG.
to have a conversation with Swords and Plowshares.
So maybe we put an
We
RFP,
probably could even split it up and like invite 3 different people.
or maybe put an RFP out for the whatever people want to come and propose on that property.
It is a legal question to make sure how much flexibility you actually have, because there are some easements on that property that we have to be very sensitive about. They don't help us, they hurt us. But, Ron, I think it's a great idea. Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry. Mr. Mayor, I think it's a great idea. I mean, again, we have to stop talking and start doing. I mean, I fought for transitional housing, and I'm so frustrated. I mean, think of what we could have done had we had it for 25 years.
And Mayor Pro Tem brought this up first.
Well, that's why I brought it up, because if we took it back and it's our property, why are we, I understand that the county has the ability or the resources, but obviously they're not vested, they're not interested for 20-something years. So as Mayor Bernal just stated, maybe we need to look at how we best utilize that property that belongs to us versus relying on the county, which has been a dead end. So I don't know what that answer is, but to me, that's why I put it down as my main priority was, why are we sitting on this property that's been vacant for all this long time? that we gave to the county for $1, and we heard what happened, and how nothing, there was no movement, no action. We took it back. Now it's ours, so what are we going to do with it? How do we utilize it to benefit our community? And so I think, as Mayor Bernal just stated, we need to look at all options and not just rely on one option, which would be the county, which has been a dead end for decades.
The Christmas tree lot is also zoned for transitional housing on Delta Fair right across from that lot. And we rent it out for Christmas trees every year, but it's zoned for transitional housing. So we as a city, I know we working on the general plan, but we have some zoning where we have city-owned land that's zoned for transitional housing across this city. It's not just that Delta Fair site. And I know we focusing on that right now, but we as a council should also be asking those questions. What sites are zoned for transitional housing in this city? And then it really is our job as a council to, like, we have to be a lot more proactive and not wait on staff. We need to go find the developers ourselves, find the partnerships ourselves in a sense, and bring those back. That's what council members and mayors are supposed to be doing, is going out and finding the opportunities and bringing them back, and then working collaboratively with staff and legal and other, our other peers to make it happen. So I think that's why I said it should be a council duty as well as what can staff do.
So I hear that, and what I'm hearing is, and I want to make sure this suggestion doesn't violate the Brown Act, but you made the suggestion, Councilwoman Torres Walker, as did you, Mayor Bernal, a few minutes ago, about breaking into groups. So could council break into groups of 2 and go try to figure out that property and how we can better use it and bring in economic development or research?
2, 1, 3, 4. I think something need to happen. I mean, that would also be and I know Councilmember Freitas isn't here, but I think that would also be the ad hoc thing happening that Councilmember Freitas didn't want to happen, right?
Okay.
We can work together all we want as members of this council without staff or anybody.
So
we just need to figure out who want to work together and go out and do that work without violating the Brown Act and having it be 3 of us, and also without establishing an ad hoc committee, which is also something that Councilmember Freitas was like, we probably shouldn't do.
So what I hear is we're going to put a priority for council between now and June 1st to either work alone or together to figure out options for that property or bring in economic development for that property or whatever options you have. Any objections to that?
And to get an update from the city manager on the current status of the county discussions.
That's a twofold. We got 2 priorities, yay. The third one that many of you agreed on, and I have 3 stars by, is where are we spending our money and is it effective? It's a financial data question. Where are we spending our money? And money financially, a couple things are going to stop in the early of next year, I heard. So what are we doing financially, and can we get some input on where the money's being spent and how we can go forward? Does anybody have any conversation about that as a third priority?
Wouldn't that fold into the assessment, doing an overall assessment on resources that are needed and resources that we have? Wouldn't that fold into that?
It would. We just haven't made that a priority yet. So is that your suggestion?
No.
I would say that
One is community
financial and
data
resource
that they already
assessment.
have. We don't need shit.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Either,
The other one.
I don't know how to label it. Should I just say
You need a-
total assessment or financial/resources assessment?
So what we have now on the board, assessment financially and assessment of resources. And I do remember the city manager talking about resources to do that assessment.
No, well, never mind.
Go ahead.
No, I was getting ready to say something, but I stopped myself.
What were you going to say?
Yeah, come on.
Tell us.
No, because you were saying the positions we don't have to be able to do that, about doing the data assessment, the financial assessment, having.
But if this is a priority, then we need to establish
prioritize
whatever it takes to
positions.
get it done.
You would-
That's what we're
need
trying to
those
establish
analysts.
here.
I mean, we can, So I normally do not like.
I'm sorry,
to-
I can't hear you.
I
Let me make sure I hear them.
I normally don't like to contract for positions that should be staffing positions. It's something about that that's just not right. And so if we get sometimes it could take 6 months to hire a person, right? So I'm not saying we shouldn't allocate staff, because I think we should, because we obviously are going to need it for the long term, but maybe in the short term, it can be a consultant while we create those positions, and hopefully the council agreed to them. I also wanted to say, it seems like where are we spending our money and like what's working as a city, right? So that's an internal analysis that we're saying we need the consultant to do. Then there was this other conversation around like the assessment of what existing services exist in the community, which is a whole separate conversation where we said we would have them come to us.
Right. Assessment of what is needed, so assessment of what we have, sorry. Assessment of what we have, but also an assessment of what is needed. We need to know.
From the community.
From the community, what is needed.
Right.
Because I just want to go say, oh, let's just do this when it's something.
We don't know, maybe.
And
I think that's why the meetings going into the area will help.
And from the standpoint, the number that caught my attention was $3 to $5 million in people in white suits cleaning up encampments. Is that the number I heard from the?
It's been a couple $1 million if you add up service masters. I mean, this report alone was almost 400,000.
Right.
Those 27 pages. So.
I'm just saying on an annual basis, what are we spending?
2 to 3 million just without actual tracking. That's not FTE time. That's not gas, equipment, mileage. It isn't disposal. You need a housing investments analysis. It takes a certain subject matter expertise to do that assessment. So it's different than Kelly's link. It's not an operational assessment. This is a very specific assessment that only people like Focus Strategies does. So this would be a consultant. They have to go into the systems manually, so it would be staff time, but they would know what to extract because everything is disjointed. There's no streamlined enterprise management system. We've never done a flag for housing. So somebody has to come in and then either set all that up and go forward. If you're looking retroactively, though, you need someone either way, retroactively, and then to tell us the system to set up going forward, so you know.
This doesn't sound like something that can be done as a one
Right.
last priority before June 1st.
Because I'm thinking, a consultant would set up all of those structures and the systems. And tell you the gaps in the systems that we need in place, and potentially also assist in setting up the systems. But when I'm also looking up the staffing snapshot for the Department of Public Safety and Community Resources, there's a housing manager, a housing manager, and a housing.
And two housing services coordinators.
2 housing services coordinators. So if there was any system that existed,
those three people.
individuals could, why wouldn't we hire people with this actual skill in those positions to manage those systems?
Well, because those systems are set up through finance, through public works, they can't manage other departments. They're doing service provision. That's different than this. It would be a policy analyst and a data team that would do that, not service managers and housing managers and program managers. They're program managers.
And would those?
They would collect the data, but they would give it to someone
in the
else.
city manager's office?
No, they're under public safety. Oh, the data and policy analyst? Yes. Yes, absolutely.
Can I make a suggestion? That the suggestion on the board was financial awareness of what we're spending. And I know that the talk of consultants and putting people in that position is a bigger picture and a bigger issue. But financial, what the city is spending financially was the suggestion, and the effectiveness of those dollars. That is something I think is measurable, and I don't think you can really fix until we hear from the community what they need to start with a consultant. I don't think we want to just throw that. We want to hear from them as the first meeting. So what three of you starred is financial assessment of the money we're currently spending and how effective it is. What do you all think of that?
It still takes a consultant. going to need a 6-month consultant on this one. All right.
It does? Okay.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, sooner or later, we're going to have to get this information. I mean, the answer is yes.
I heard a yes. Does anybody object? You're good with it? Are you good with it? The third priority that we have now set is the city manager working on coming back to you on a consultant to get the data as quickly as possible after we listen to the community and have the meetings and take care of that property. Is there any objection to that third priority?
No.
I wanted to thank you. I learned from all of you from your stories. Thank you for sharing. Thank you. I'm going to turn the meeting. I want to thank council for the opportunity. We have our 3 priorities. I will write them up and work with the city manager. Thank you.
All right.
Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Ms. Miller. City Manager Scott, do you have any final comments before we adjourn?
I would like to just say thank you for the conversation. I want to thank my directors and consultants who are here from David Storr to Chief Addington. Chief Vihil was somewhere, but I wanted to really thank the community for coming out, making your voices heard. I see Director Bunting in the audience. It's been a great conversation. I look forward to getting this going.
All right. Thank you very much as well to everybody who took the time today. I hope you you learned something about your city council and about what our priorities are and what we're going to be working towards, and we look forward to working on it with you. So with that, I will adjourn. Oh, excuse me.
Do we have any space for another public comments?
No, we've already done our public comments.
Thank you.
So with that, we will adjourn this meeting.
No,
Oh.
it's a special meeting.
Oh, special.
What?
I just wanted to make sure you guys got your lunch because you didn't get your.
So,
sorry.
Did you need a second?
Oh, sorry, yeah, so it needs to be a vote to adjourn. the
Okay,
meeting.
do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I'll second.
All right.
So moved, I guess. Did I do that?
The motion by Councilmember Torres Walker, second by Mayor Pro Tem Rocha. Please cast your votes.
Roll
Yay.
call?
Oh, go. Hey. Councilmember Freitas.
No. Just to spice it up.
Okay, are you serious, sir?
Are you serious?
Yes.
Okay, yes. Councilmember Torres Walker.
Yes.
Mayor Rocha.
Yes.
Pro Tem Rocha. Yes. Mayor Bernal.
She left.
Councilmember Wilson.
Yes.
Thank you. Vote is unanimous, passes.
Okay, I've gone.
Council is adjourned at 2:08 p.m. Thank you.
She was out here.